Before we get started, I would actually like to direct everyone's attention to two other YouTube channels. The first one here would be the Wood Window Makeover channel. You definitely want to watch all of those videos. I highly recommend just binge watching all of them, get a good idea of everything. The second one is the Craftsman blog. He has a specific playlist regarding wood window makeovers, but he has other playlists that go over plastering and other things related to your craftsman homes, your older homes. So between the two of them, you're definitely going to find a world of information that you're going to want, that you're going to find interesting, useful, and most importantly, fairly accurate. The heat gun here is definitely going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. I think I have cracked more glass by overheating a spot than I have by any other means. And that's not a good track record on my part. And yet it's frustratingly easy to do. There are tools like the Cobra speed heater that you can get. That's between $300 and $500, depending on what version. There's another version on Heritage Supply that's like maybe 160. I don't know too much about that one. Also in this video, you're going to see me being fairly aggressive with my removal of the putty. I'm literally shoving a pick through the putty in between the edge of the rabbet and the glass. I'm honestly surprised that I only broke one small square pane in this entire process, because there's plenty of times that I definitely came down close to the edge of the pane. But for me, this works. I'm replacing the original glass with tempered glass after all this. I didn't flat out break them because then you just have a mess. And I didn't want to go that far. Down below, I'm also going to link various websites like Atlas Preservation, Heritage Supply, and Killian Hardware, and a couple of others. These websites, they will have the specialized tools, scrapers, putties, paints, glazing points. Just if it's window related, they're going to have it. The sash cords, the tape balances. Frankly, the list kind of goes on and on, depending on just how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go, how historic you want to keep the windows and the varnish and everything between there. These websites, it's not a promotion, I don't get anything from it. They're just the websites that I found over time versus trying on Amazon or the big box stores, which the selection on those sites is going to be not so great compared to the ones that I'm going to list. It's not just the selection, but the prices. So definitely, check those out, look through them, and I hope that you find something useful on them. Now, I'm not quite happy with the video footage that you're going to see. I started filming this back in March or April. Some of the first footage I ever filmed for YouTube. I had problems with the camera app I was using. I lost audio, I lost video. I'm not quite happy with some of the angles, but I do improve, not in this 30-minute or so clip, but in future ones. The citristrip here has actually been on for 24 hours, but it was done easily within 3 or 4. As we can see, it is peeling off the muntins very easily. This is preferable to taking the time to sand a mutton, because you start sanding it and you're going to start losing details. Just to be clear here, what I'm saying is that the citristrip is preferable to aggressive sanding when you're trying to remove the initial layers of paint. Obviously, you're going to be doing sanding. My second video is just tons of sanding, but you don't want to go at this with just bringing a heavy, a sander on it, or a 60 grit, and just like thinking, oh, I'm going to remove all the paint, you're inevitably going to remove too much wood or damage a profile or something else. Use a IR heater or infrared heater or a heat gun or the citristrip to remove the paint. The citristrip, to me, it's cheap, it's easy, but it takes longer than the other options, and that's because you apply it, you have to wait, a few hours for it to work properly. Sometimes you have to do it twice if there's multiple layers of paint that it has to go through. And then even after you remove these strips of paint, as you see me doing here, it still leaves a residue behind, and that residue itself can be kind of annoying to remove. Again, the infrared heaters, they're expensive, they can work the best, and you don't have to worry about lead paint being atomized in the air. You do still have to be careful about it cracking panes, but it's safer than the heat gun. The heat gun works quick, but again, you can burn the wood, you can crack the glass, and you get the lead paint too hot, and that atomizes into the air. So when you're using the heat gun, you really need to wear a proper HEPA filter. So those are things to keep in mind. Um, no matter what route you go, eventually you're going to be using something to sand the wood. And what I'm kind of getting at here and further on is that if you are not careful, you will remove too much wood from certain places before you even realize it, especially on the muttons or in the profile areas, and especially when you're dealing with dry rot. You get too aggressive and you will remove wood, the softer wood, and leave behind the harder waves of grain in the wood. You know from experience, even the wire brush, um, this one should be brass. Yeah. Even a wire brush on this old dry wood like this, you can start to dig out the grain. Um, so you really want to be careful when it comes to the decorative features on some of these old windows. You think that you're doing something right, something nice, and by the time you're done, you start looking and you see that the flat surface is no longer flat. And there's different ways of doing this. I've seen some people actually make these cutouts that are the approximately the same pattern as the buttons. Real quick, what I'm referring to here, the proper name would be a sanding cope. Other names could be a profile sanding block or molding block, but the sanding cope, from my understanding, is the proper terminology. It's really the inverse image of the profile. So the image that you see here, this is my attempt at trying to make my own sanding coat, my own custom profile sanding block. It was literally just two sticks of JB Weld epoxy putty, formed them over the profile. I had some aluminum foil over the profile in between the putty, but it was just kind of an idea of like what's the easiest way to form around the profile, and this is what I came up with. It seems to work. I definitely could have made it better. I'm definitely going to try again. But it seems like a potentially interesting solution. There's also a tool that you can get that has it's basically a handle with maybe like six different blades, and each blade has two different profiles on it. That can also help. And I do prefer scrapers to sanders. But if you're trying to get something that has the exact same profile as the window, using a hard epoxy putty definitely seems like a potential. Um, and it's something that I'm going to experiment with more going forward. They'll make like a little wooden cutout and then form a piece of sandpaper in it, fit down over it perfectly, and um, sand the muttons, mullions, whatever you want to call them, whatever they are called. But that's another way of sanding the decorative pieces and making sure that you maintain, maintain the proper shape. I don't have that ability, so I stick with the slightly slower, slightly easier citristrip. And whatever the citristrip can't remove, go in by hand. And there's a spider. I have a standing rule to spiders in my basement. Don't cross my path and I won't smush them. This joint right here, you can see is loose. Same here. While the others are pretty decent. And those are all good. This bottom piece, so this is the bottom rail of the upper sash. And this is the part that would have gotten the most moisture damage. And from my understanding and what I've seen before on my windows, there's at least one small brad nail in each ending, each joint of the mullions. And down here, due to the moisture damage, the that small nail either the nail itself will rust out, or the dry rot from the wood itself kind of hollows out the area around it. But either way, you end up with a disconnect. So I have to be careful about applying too much pressure there. I want to keep it where it was, and eventually I will add some wood glue and my own small brad nail back in from the other side, and that way it will be held properly in place. Now, it's possible on some windows, depending how old they are, that the connection would have just been purely glue, mechanical. It just would have been set in there with pressure fit and some glue, basically. But like I said, I've seen on mine, on previous windows that I've worked on in my house, that they had a little, like I said, little nail in there. That's the excuse I'm going with. Of course, whatever, if you do end up using a nail, any kind of hardware like that, staples, brad nails, you want to make sure that it is stainless steel. And I'm kind of bouncing around here right now. Don't really have a particular order. Just peeling off the larger sections and going around for the moment. Now, technically right now, I should probably be wearing a mask due to the lead paint, but this material is pretty heavy. It's not dusting up into the air much. So I'm not really that worried about it at the moment. But you do what you feel you need to, and just try to keep it out of your mouth. When it comes to lead paint, don't be like us in the 80s. Keep it out of your mouth. What was your favorite flavor lead paint when you were growing up? Back then, it was vanilla or lime green. But what I found over time from research and how accurate all this is, you're gonna have to find out for yourself. But if you properly restore your old windows, even just using single pane glass, proper glazing, make sure everything fits properly, and you add some kind of weather stripping to the window frame. In my case, I use it's spring bronze. Which camera to show it here too, but you can see that this material is not flat. What happens, you take this and you nail it to the jambs right where the window slides up and down, and this is one form of accepted or acceptable weather stripping that you can use. It works well. I'm not going to say that it works as well as what you can get with modern silicone tubing weather stripping. Some people like this from an aesthetic, from an aesthetic point of view. Words, difficult. Some people like this from a theoretically historical point of view. This was used historically on some houses. It works. It lasts a long time. That bronze spring material will absolutely outlast silicone and vinyl weather stripping. And it looks decent whenever you have your the windows down and you have that that bronze color on there. It looks decent. But you also find from other professionals out there, sometimes they'll use that, and sometimes they will use again, the more modern stuff. But the point is that when you properly restore these windows and include weather stripping, you have it on the meeting rail right here. Well, if you have a double hung window like I do, have it on the meeting rail where the two sashes, the bottom of the top and the top of the bottom meet. Have it on the sides, the top and the bottom. What you end up with, and I don't have the exact numbers, exact data, but what you end up with is a very efficient window without spending $800 replacing it. And so what people find out over time is that the money saved from replacing an old window like this with a new one, the money saved due to the better insulation value from the double pane glass and all the other features, the numbers don't always add up. If I replace this window with a brand new, vinyl, I'm not even getting into what an actual wood replacement window would cost, just your typical decent vinyl double hung window, which I have up in my my living room, with its slightly tinted glass, the dual layer, dual pane glass, all that stuff. You're talking about a decade or more before that insulation value actually pays for itself, maybe even more. And the thing with the modern aluminum vinyl windows is a lot of them
may not last more than 10, 20 years anyways before things start to go wrong. That's going to vary between companies. There's a lot of variation in that. But once you go down the window restoration rabbit hole, there's just a lot of things that you read. Now, if you paid the money for a full brand new wooden window with all the things, then yeah, that you treat that right, that's going to last 100 years. But it's stupid expensive. Like, you're at that point, you're not doing it because you want to increase the efficiency of your windows. You're doing it for some other reason. So yeah, long story short, take the time, repair your windows properly, add in decent weather stripping all the way around, and you will absolutely decrease the noise and the temperature variations and air intrusion from that window. And even if you have to replace every pane of glass in the, like I'm actually am replacing every pane of glass in this, instead of using the extremely thin single layer stuff, I'm using what's called, I believe it's called a double layer. It's basically just like another millimeter or two thicker, but it's also tempered. So I am replacing almost every pane on here. All the larger ones are going to be the tempered, thicker glass. The smaller ones, like the one that I broke over here, I have so much extra of the old glass, I'm just going to use that. And that was a choice on my part because I keep having bad luck whenever I go to cut the glass, especially the larger pieces. Too many times I've made one small mistake and broke one of the larger pieces, and it's not much. I mean, I think that the piece right there would have been about $20, but it adds up, and it's a little bit disheartening when you break it over something stupid. On one of my previous windows, I cut it perfectly. I had everything in perfectly. I had it glazed, and I had it sitting, I had it glazed and painted sitting on my table here, and I came back to it 3 days later and I found a crack. And I found that it was because of the way that I had one of the glazing points in. Just a slight error, slightly tweaked glazing point due to the way that I trimmed it, which I'll get into that at a later time. But that slight tweak, combined with maybe, because I didn't touch I know for a fact it wasn't cracked when I left it alone. So I think that the glazing as it dried added just enough pressure onto the glazing point. And because I had trimmed the glazing point, it probably had like a little burr, something like that. And that was all it took. You can, and that wasn't the double pane or the tempered glass, obviously that was the single pane stuff you get from Home Depot. What's interesting about that stuff is that you can take a hammer and kind of whack it, won't break it. You take a sharp point, like the edge of a chisel, hit it just as hard and it'll shatter. And that's basically what happened with that. So I got tired of breaking glass from minor little things, mostly my inability to cut properly. There's 50-50 odds. And I decided to just go with tempered, get it cut to the dimensions that I need. There's a place locally to me, relatively speaking. It still gets shipped to me, but you're only a few hours away. Price is decent. The glass will last forever, as long as I don't have to cut it, as long as I get the dimensions right. It's not going to break in here. So everything goes right. The glass will outlast the wood.
The rest of the video here is going to be time lapse. There's not going to be any more of me speaking, even though you are going to hear fast-paced squeaking where I was speaking, but I just decided it wasn't worth hearing in this particular format. If for some reason there is people that actually want to see the full unedited footage, I have 9 hours of footage that I'm trimming down to 2 videos, this one and the second one that I'm actually going to release shortly. Me talking to myself, me talking about the channel, and me talking about the window. It's glorious stuff, absolutely glorious. I hope that maybe someone in here finds something useful in this. Thank you for if someone actually makes it this far, I'll be surprised, to be honest. But whoever does, you know, thanks for making it this far. And I hope that you found something useful in it. And the second video is mostly going to be sanding and the finishing touches of the sanding. My entire goal was to get it ready for a borate treatment. Water-based borate treatment is for fungus and pest control. I actually filmed that part, but it's not going to be in the these 2 videos. And then after the borate treatment, it goes on to the blow terp, and then further on from there. So the third video, once I start filming it and editing it and everything, it will be actually showing something more, you know, where the epoxy, the repairs, the wood treatments, let alone the painting and glazing and everything. And hopefully better quality than what these first ones were. But again, for anyone that actually makes it this far, you know, thanks for that.
Jaws creak like a funeral drum. 100-year bones under plaster and dust. I don't fix for glory, I fix for trust. Red label fizz cold in my hand while the scraper sings across this land. Lead paint ghost in a paper mask. One more room, one more honest task. Grain wakes up when the stain goes black. Sweat and grit in a narrow stack. I'm not young, I'm not done, I'm just getting my workbench warm. Dr. Pepper and a dead-eyed grin. Late night sane in the basement den. Turpentine linseed, slow burn shine. Bring that dry old wood back to life. I take pride, I take time, I take the noise. Metal in my blood, but I build with poise. Hammer meets hard and the darkness sings in this house of mine. I repair everything. Sandpaper storm on a staircase rail. Cedar breath and a rusted nail. Radio low but the riff runs deep. Under work boots the whole place sleeps. Brush it on like a ride I know. Soak the thirst out of wood that's old. Every board's got a story scar. I'm the guy who takes it too far. Grain wakes up when the stain goes black. Sweat and grit in a narrow stack. I'm not young, I'm not done, I'm just getting my workbench warm. Dr. Pepper and a dead-eyed grin. Late night sane in the basement din. Turpentine, linseed, slow burn shine. Bring that dry old wood back to life. I take pride, I take time, I take the noise. Metal in my blood, but I build with poise. Hammer meets hard and the darkness sings in this house of mine. I repair everything. Creaking beams and cathedral dust. I raise this place on stubborn trust. If the world wants quick, let it pass me by. I'm sealing the grain where the years went dry. And when the morning hits that polished frame, it'll glow like a cord with a righteous name. Dr. Pepper and a dead-eyed grin. Late night sane in the